NHS. This is all about profit and money making. Farage is a puppet of, and he's a puppet of whomever will pay the bills for him, and whoever will make him richer, wealthier, more popular, more famous. There is no genuine position from Farage. You've seen that through the years yourself.
And there is, lastly, a genuine position from Sir Keir.
Yes. He doesn't like racists.
What is...
Much like myself.
What nobody is reporting about Starmer's Farage fixation is the hidden calculation that's got Labour strategists panicking. While Starmer accuses Farage of wanting Britain to fail, the real reason he's obsessed reveals a stunning admission about Labour's collapse. I'll show you exactly what Starmer's really admitting when he attacks Reform UK and why it's backfiring spectacularly. Watch this clip first, then I'll break down the buried admission that changes everything about what we're seeing.
Having had the benefit of being up in Liverpool and mixing and having the opportunity to speak with some senior members of the government and others and party workers and whatever else, as I said in the first hour of the show, whatever happens at the midterms or the local elections next March, and I think the government will be in for quite a kicking, by the way. Whatever happens then, at the next general election currently, if, as the poll showed last weekend, if the votes go the way the poll's going, 267 Labour MPs would lose their seats. 267 of 401 would be gone. They wouldn't all go, I hasten to add, to Reform, but a fair old chunk would. Reform would be the biggest single party, so they would be the kingmakers potential. Well, they would be looking for a kingmaker so that they could be in a position of power. So what has happened is, in the space of a few years, Reform have gone from not even existing to, I say, almost without doubt, being the opposition, at the very least, at the next general election. And in part, it is fed by the speeches that you heard from the Health Secretary and others, the Work and Pensions, everyone else, and indeed the Prime Minister, for that matter. So it is an obsession with them, and all they're doing is, to use that expression, feeding the beast.
Contrary, I think, to your position, I would support Starmer's approach. I think Farage's approach is invidious. It's trying to adopt wholesale the policies and the processes and the way America is behaving just now, which frankly is disgusting. And why do we want to import that to this country? That's far more of an existential danger to us than anything that I've seen in my lifetime.
Why has it gained such popularity, do you think, the Reform Party?
Misinformation and a focus from the media, and I'm afraid to say yourself, I mean, the question of when they only have 5 members of Parliament, why are they receiving such attention? Well, on the flip side, Nick, and yesterday or last week or whenever, I've heard you yourself say, well, they're scoring so highly in the polls.
But it's not just me, Nathan. You could ask the Prime Minister, why did you devote so much of your time yesterday to Reform? You could ask the Deputy Prime Minister, why did you decide to say that Nigel Farage had some kind of alliance with Adolf Hitler? You could ask the Health Secretary why he talked about Wes Streeting, why he talked about Nigel Farage and said that he's not as attractive as Brad Pitt. It's not the media's obsession, it's the government's obsession, Nathan.
No, I disagree. I think they're obliged
three
to answer.
people, Nathan. I've just told you the Health Secretary, the DPM and the Prime Minister.
Fantastic. But that's not my point. Yes, they have focused upon them, and they focus upon them because they see them as an existential threat, supported by the mainstream media and other interests. Other interests who, for instance, would love to take over our NHS. This is all about profit and money making. Farage is a puppet of, and he's a puppet of whomever will pay the bills for him, and whoever will make him richer, wealthier, more popular, more famous. There is no genuine position from Farage. You've seen that through the years yourself.
And there is, lastly, a genuine position from Sir Keir.
Yes. He doesn't like racists.
What is,
much like myself.
Right. What is that genuine position as regards running the country?
Well, the man's trying to improve a lot. I mean, he's only been there for a year, and all of a sudden he's responsible for everything the Tories have done in 14 years.
OK. He's only been there, it's actually a little over a year, it's about 15 months. He's only been there for a year. Are we going to say that in a year's time? He's only been there 2 years. How long is that argument going to hold? David's in Hampstead. David, was it the right path to take? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Great show.
Oh, thank you.
It's so telling that he didn't really talk about what they've supposedly achieved in 15 months. It was just Farage. And actually, what's quite interesting, what occurred to me is I remember just over a year ago, on all dates, September the 11th, I actually phoned your show and I said to you, Nick, I bet you actually made a bet for a loneliness charity.
Oh, go on. Sorry, do I owe you money? I'm so sorry.
Well, no, not me. It'll be the charity.
Oh, right, yeah, of course, yeah.
I said, I'll match your donation, Nick. But anyway, I said that I guarantee that in 12 months, under Labour, the country will not be in a better position than it is, now, which was then. And, I mean, they've got to the point where
did I say? Did I say that it would be?
Well, I think you said, let's see, we don't know.
Okay, right.
Well,
okay,
and the thing is, they really have no policies that they can turn to. And governments normally have like that one thing they just bang on about, and they'll say, we've done that. They don't even have that. They can't really turn to anything because they've literally just, stabbed in the back, farmers, waspy women, pensioners, like you name it. They've just got everybody, and it's just they can't do anything other than, ironically, attack the man. It's literally all they're doing now.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they are playing the man and not the ball now, aren't they?
It's ridiculous. And other parties are also jumping on the Farage bandwagon, other than, I think, the kind of loony fringe parties like the Greens and Jeremy Corbyn's party.
Well, I don't know if everybody thinks they're loony and on the fringe. David, thank you. By the way, if you do send me an email, if I do owe money to a charity, I wouldn't want to think that I don't pay out my bet. I don't know necessarily that I quite owe the money yet, but if you think I do, I'm happy to resolve that. David, have a good one. Thank you. Ify says, I'm not a fan of the PM banging on about Mr Farage, but for crying out loud, Farage's use of Trumpian language is becoming creepier by the day. When did we welcome the word Antifa in our political correspondence? Political conversation. So sorry. Harry in Gravesend. On the basis Reform has the same number of MPs as the Green Party, how many times have you had a Green Party MP on your show over the past 6 months compared to your friend Nigel Farage's party political broadcasts? Don't use the excuse it's because Farage could be the next Prime Minister. You're just a right-wing journalist. Ben in Bermondsey, you're on the radio. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Nick. A long-time listener, but not a fan, but trying to get to know you.
Okay, sir.
All right. Now, this is what I have to say, and I'll be brief.
Please.
Nick, we know your job is to stoke the political arena as a journalist. Hold on. Rather than promote such tense and unhelpful situation in the country, we should be discussing about the policies and the way forward and how the policy might or may not work.
Why didn't he do that, sir? Why didn't the Prime Minister do that?
He did, because first, listen, Nick, these people came in 1 year and 3 months. I used to be a Labour supporter. I was drifting off to the Greens. But after yesterday, and the Prime Minister showing gloves off, it's time to take the fight to the people destroying the image of our country.
Okay. What did he say that really resonated with you, Ben?
Nick, everything he said from the beginning to the end, even the words that he used, do you notice he's a statesman? He doesn't curse. He doesn't create division. He doesn't use words that will stoke fear. You have to look at the trend. If you compare Prime Minister Keir Starmer to every people like Boris Johnson, compare him. And then Farage hasn't even got into play. But Farage is already creating division, flags flying, rallies, support for this and that. So Farage went as far as going to America to discredit the name of a country that built America.
Okay.
Asking for sanction.
Okay. Why then, if that is what the Prime Minister has achieved, why would he keep mentioning one of the opposition parties? Okay,
Nick, look at it. Tories are not being mentioned anymore because they spent the last 14 years destroying the country. Now, Labour comes in. I'm not going to say they are the best, but a man has been sick for 20 years. He didn't die, but a man comes in to try and heal him up and kept him alive. Now, who do you think will do a better job? Someone trying to cure the country from 14 years.
But I don't think the country is getting better after 14 months, is it?
It's been 1 year and 3 months. Well, how do you change something in a year and 3 months that's been destroyed?
You don't take winter fuel payments away from people, do you?
You
honour the promise for waspy women, don't you? Isn't that what you do?
Okay, Nick, I'm 52 years old, yeah? I've been here for 45 years.
Yeah.
You're talking about winter payment. We keep banging about winter payment as if that's the only thing that keeps the country going. No one's talking about the children.
What has he achieved then? Let's come at it the other way. What has he achieved, Ben?
Let's look at it. Have you looked at the record of the NHS? Sir?
What has he achieved?
Okay, look at the record of the NHS. Do you see
waiting lists staying exactly where they were 14 months ago?
No.
Well,
I don't know what.
I researched it yesterday.
No, sir. I don't know what record you're looking at. You know the problem. People
exactly
don't talk about
yesterday.
I get it, Nick. I know you represent not the Tories sometimes and the other side of the divide, but sometimes let's let common sense prevail.
You honestly telling me, lastly, Ben, and I'm thoroughly enjoying our conversation, apologies if you're waiting for the news, that my listeners think the NHS is running better now than it did 14 months ago, Ben?
Sir, compare the NHS to when the Tories were on and Boris was building fake annexes and claiming it was hospital.
Now you've seen the clip. Here's what they're not telling you. Keir Starmer's 5 times mention of Nigel Farage wasn't a slip, it was a confession. When a sitting Prime Minister spends more breath on a man who holds 0 front-bench office than on his own policy record, he's not attacking, he's advertising. He's advertising that Labour has already conceded the argument on every other front. The economy is stalling, the boats keep coming, the NHS waiting lists are welded to the same spot they were under the Tories, and the only card left in the deck is, at least we're not reform. That is not a campaign strategy, that is a suicide note wrapped in a smear. Sir John Curtice, the only pollster Westminster still fears, told conference delegates Labour cannot salvage the situation unless a miracle economic upturn drops from the sky. Translation, the party is structurally bleeding from both flanks. To their left, the Greens and Lib Dems are scooping up the university town Liberals who think Starmer is basically Boris in a better suit. To their right, Reform is hoovering up the working class voters who once put Labour on their birth certificate next to their own names. Starmer's solution? Pretend the flank hemorrhage is a single paper cut named Nigel and apply a toddler's Batman plaster. The problem is that every time he says Farage, another 200 voters in Dudley or Doncaster Google Reform UK membership form. The Prime Minister is literally paying in priceless publicity for the privilege of throwing punches at a man who isn't even on the ballot in most of the country. Look at the clip again. Starmer claims Farage doesn't want to fix the problem of small boats because if the boats stop, his political currency goes down. That sentence is a mirror, and the Prime Minister should have broken it before speaking. Who precisely has allowed 400 migrants to land in a single day, 9 months after vowing to smash the gangs? Whose borders bill is so flimsy that it relies on a returns deal Macron can tear up with one heatwave riot? Whose own Home Secretary has presided on a 25 rise in channel crossings year on year? It isn't Nigel Farage, it's Labour. By Starmer's own logic, every extra boat is a Labour campaign leaflet. He has become the thing he claims to hate, a politician whose survival depends on the crisis he promised to end. But the buried admission is bigger than immigration. Listen to the Deputy Prime Minister's retreat. David Lammy smears Farage with a Hitler Youth slur so baseless he has to crawl back to the BBC within 2 hours to clarify. Why take that risk? Because Labour's internal data must show the same picture Curtice sees. 267 Labour MPs at risk, a third of them to reform, enough to make Farage kingmaker in a hung parliament. When you are down to 130-odd seats, you will say anything, literally anything, to stop the bleed. That is not strength, that is terror, and terror produces the single most self-destructive tactic in politics, giving your opponent free airtime. Every Labour minister who says Farage is a volunteer press officer for reform. They are the PR department they claim to despise. Here's the connection gap. The same establishment that told us Brexit would crash the economy, that COVID lockdowns had no collateral costs, that net zero will lower bills, is now telling us Farage is toxic. At what point does a track record of cosmic misjudgment disqualify you from the insult business? Ordinary voters have memories longer than a TikTok clip. They recall being branded bigots for worrying about grooming gangs, climate deniers for asking why China opens 2 coal plants a week, Putin puppets for wanting cheaper energy. The word toxic has been debased by overuse. It now translates as threat to the comfort of incumbent elites. That is why the attack line is backfiring. Every time Starmer says toxic, another pensioner in Lee thinks, sounds like my kind of detox. Now here's the part that will really surprise you. Labour's obsession is not only gifting Farage votes, it is quietly rebranding the Conservatives as yesterday's news. Notice how Starmer mentioned the Tories precisely once, in passing, as withering on the vine. Rishi Sunak's party is being airbrushed out of the contest. The debate Labour wants is globalist centre versus populist right, because that forces voters to pick a side instead of abstaining in disgust. But by erasing the Tories from the story, Starmer accelerates the very realignment he claims to fear. A 3-way fight gives Labour a theoretical 30 path to hang on. A 2-way fight with Reform turns the red wall into Reform's launchpad. Starmer is sculpting his own extinction. So what does this mean for the British family listening in Surrey or South Yorkshire? It means your taxes, your mortgage, your child's school, your mother's operation are now hostage to a Prime Minister who spends conference season shouting at a private citizen instead of fixing the country. It means the centre-left has run out of ideas so completely that its final offering is, look, squirrels, sorry, Farage. And it means the next election will be fought not on competence or vision, but on who gets to define British patriotism itself. That is an argument Farage has been rehearsing since 1992. It is an argument Starmer has never won, not even inside his own party. Ask yourself this. If Reform really were a fringe cluster of cranks, would every cabinet minister feel compelled to utter its name? You don't punch down at phantoms, you punch down at something that has already overtaken you in the polls for 100 consecutive surveys. When the Prime Minister says, I will defend the tolerant, diverse country I love, patriotic voters hear, I will defend the status quo that left your cousin waiting 2 years for a hip replacement. They hear, I love the Britain that pays $7 million a day to house illegal migrants in 4-star hotels while your autistic son gets no support. Tolerance is a virtue. Managed decline dressed up as tolerance is an insult. Here's exactly how we fight back. First, treat every Labour attack ad as a Reform donation form with someone else's signature on it. Share it, mock it, amplify it. Second, refuse the establishment's false moral binary. You can dislike crony capitalism and still want secure borders. You can celebrate Britain's ethnic diversity and still think 1.2 million net migrants a year is bonkers. Third, use the May local elections as the primary that Westminster denies us. If Reform tops the poll in the Black Country and the Valleys, Labour MPs in neighbouring marginals will start issuing their own clarifications faster than Lammy. Finally, insist the BBC and Sky give us a leaders' debate that includes Farage. Starmer wants to make this a referendum on Farage. Fine, let's hold it, in Wrexham, with working-class questioners, and see which leader looks toxic when the audience starts laughing at the man who promised change and delivered a lecture. Time is running out to rescue British democracy from the clutches of a managerial class that would rather smear than solve. Every taxpayer who quietly whispers, enough, needs to whisper it on a ballot, not just in the pub. Because mark my words, if we allow Labour and its media chorus to turn the next election into a court of public morality where patriotism is on trial, we will wake up with a Starmer-Farage duopoly that makes 2019 look like a vicarage tea party. The antidote to elite panic is not polite silence. It is confident, unapologetic, grassroots conservatism that remembers who actually pays the bills in this country. So when the Prime Minister next says Farage wants Britain to fail, reply with the truth. Starmer has accidentally confessed. Labour has failed, knows it has failed, and is now begging the nation to look anywhere except at the smouldering wreckage of 15 months in office. We are not required to oblige. We are required to vote, to organise, and to remind every canvasser who knocks that the Britain we love, the Britain of fairness, sovereignty, hard work and common sense, will not be rescued by a man who cannot utter the word achievement without following it with "but Farage." It will be rescued by us, the quiet majority, who have finally worked out who the real toxin is, and it isn't the reformer knocking on the door.